Okay, everyone, welcome. It's officially 8:30 p.m. We got a couple quick announcements. Let's grab our seats. I don't know if you are all aware, but the church is giving a full remodel to this room. It's going to be absolutely beautiful. We will get a little bit relocated for temporarily. We don't know when that's going to start. This is the new year again. Welcome to the 2026 first meeting of the year. But be mindful that we'd like everybody to enter through the front of the church, because as they're doing the renovations, this door will be closed and we'll be in a different room. So you'll just follow the signs. It'll be very simple, but you want to give yourself enough time. Again, what else do I got to announce? I guess that's about it. With that, who do we have? We have the world's second best chairman, all the way from Colorado prison. Welcome, Brian.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome home. Happy New Year. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Brian, and I am an alcoholic. This is a one-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday here at St. Paul's Lutheran Church. That's 301 North Main Street in Doylestown, PA. We have food and fellowship for this group every week starting at 8 o'clock, and our speaker comes on at 8:30. We have a business meeting for this group, meets every Saturday, 7 p.m. to 7:30, so feel free to come early and join us. You want to get involved with this group, become a member, see any home group member. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teaching of the 12 steps. We record all our speakers so that others can benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. So if you're new, if you're here for the first time, or maybe visiting from out of town and would like to introduce yourself on a first name basis so we can welcome you. Anybody? Yeah.
My name is Jake. I'm an alcoholic.
Jake. Welcome, welcome. Yeah.
I'm Dave. I'm an alcoholic.
Dave. Welcome. Nice. Brandon. Welcome. Yeah. Evan. Welcome. Yeah. Will. Welcome. Yeah. Angel. Welcome. We get everybody? Yeah, right there.
Hi, Ryan. Alcoholic.
All right. Welcome, welcome. Yeah.
I'm Paul.
Paul. Welcome, welcome. Well, welcome to everybody. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship with anyone with a working knowledge of the 12 steps and who is willing to sponsor. Please raise your hands. So we got plenty of people willing to sponsor. If you are new, hang out with us after the meeting, grab one of those people. There'll be a group of us breaking down the meeting. I always say, grab one of those people. We'd love to talk with you, get you a big book, get you a meeting list, some phone numbers, and get you into the solution a little bit. So hang out with us after the meeting. Are there any announcements from the floor for the good of AA? Anybody got anything going on? Yeah.
My name is Nick. I'm an alcoholic.
Nick.
Joined a separate commission. If you want cash, you go to bed. So come see me afterwards. It's possible.
Nick accepts Bitcoin. Yeah. Go ahead, Gary. What do you got?
Hey, I'm Gary. I'm not
Gary.
So in this building, the room out there, Monday night, 6 p.m., stay alive, finish your set food meeting, and we have a really true greatest care person. Team is going to be here Monday night.
Ooh! Nice. Not to be missed. Anybody else got anything going on? Again, this group is all about service. We have a couple of H&I commitments. We do one every Sunday night up at a treatment center. It's up in Quakertown. We go out there, usually a group of us, share maybe 5-10 minutes of your time. So if you'd be interested in doing that, coming out, sharing a message of hope and recovery, they really appreciate it. Nick also has a big book study meeting going on Wednesdays. It's a men's commitment at a recovery house. But yeah, if you're interested in getting involved in some service, again, see any home group member, we can get you hooked up with some commitments there. This group has a sister group, which is a big book study meeting. It meets on Thursday at 7:30, just up the road from here at Salem UCC Church. That's 186 East Court Street in Doylestown, PA. And the coffee for that meeting's on at 6:15 again. So if you want to get there early, enjoy the fellowship, become a member of that group, we'd love to have you. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books or CDs, for those who cannot afford them, can put their donations in the jar on that back table marked Big Book and CD donations. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got a YouTube channel. We post all our speakers from this group on there. We're up to over 500,000 views on there now. And I always say it's a good resource to have. If you come here, you hear a great message, hope and recovery that you think people could benefit from. It makes it real easy to share our speakers, you know what I mean? And we have a Facebook page too that we post all the upcoming speakers on, any events, celebrations that might be happening in the area. Other groups post stuff they have going on, so I always say it's a good resource to have to stay tied in with happenings in AA throughout the area. And with that, I'm going to bring my good friend Daryl up here. Daryl's going to read the AA preamble. Please help me welcome Daryl. Or no, just for today, sorry.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Daryl, and I'm an alcoholic. It's just for today. Just for today, Brian. Yeah. Okay, just for today, prayer of recovery. Just for today, I will be agreeable. I will look as well as I can, dress becomingly, talk low, act courteously, criticize not one bit, not find fault with anything, and not try to improve or regulate anybody except myself. And my name is Daryl, I'm an alcoholic, and I am to introduce Jason to come up here to read the AA preamble.
My name's Jason, I'm an alcoholic. Good evening, everyone. This is the AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, hope with each other that may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is the desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not aligned with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics achieve sobriety. Please put your hands together for our bride herself, Miss Kara, to the stage.
Congratulations, Karen.
Thank you. Good evening, y'all. My name's Kara. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic. Welcome home. The AA 12 Steps of Recovery. Number 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Number 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Number 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Number 4, made a searching and fearless more inventory of ourselves. Number 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Number 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Number 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. Number 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Number 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Number 10, continued to take personal inventory when we're wrong, properly admitted it. Number 11, sought through prayer and meditation to prove our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And number 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we've tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. Now I'm going to ask a good friend of mine, Brian. He's going to come up and he's going to introduce our speaker. Woo! Woo!
Okay, this group does have a 7th tradition. Every A group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, we'll see that the basket makes its way around. There are no dues or fees for A membership, but we do have expenses, and your contributions do help us to cover the cost of food, rent, big books, workshops, etc., so it is greatly appreciated. There's absolutely no smoking on the church property. It's the church's policy, not ours. We have this beautiful facility that, as Ron mentioned, they're going to be renovating for us to hold the meeting in every week. We have a good relationship with the church. They really just ask that we keep the premise clean, so just be respectful of that as you're coming and going from the meeting. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones. and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. And now to introduce our speaker for tonight, a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group on loan to us from the Primary Purpose Group of Sparta, New Jersey. Please help me welcome Anthony R.
My name's Anthony. I'm an alcoholic. By the grace of my God, 12 steps, 12 traditions, actions I've taken in this program. My sponsor, Strong Home Group, I haven't found it necessary to pick up a drink or drug since April 21st, 2019, and I am grateful for that today. So I appreciate being here tonight. Grateful to be here, grateful to be sober. A little no more nervous than I usually am. It's a big group, but I'm glad to be here. So hopefully I can bring you guys my message of experience, strength, and hope. I'll start from the beginning. For me, I'm an identical twin, Vinny. I got an older brother, Vito, father, Paulie, and we're not Polish. Okay, seeing who's awake tonight. But normal family, right? I grew up what I thought was a normal family. Grew up in a little town, Lake Opakon in New Jersey, a couple hours from here. I just remember early on, even before I ever picked up my first drink or drug, I just was full of fear. I never felt part of, and always seeking validation or acceptance from anyone and anything. And from what I knew growing up, I thought everyone felt that way, so I thought that was normal. Grew up in a way where my parents would kick me out of the house about when the lights were on and the sun came out, and they didn't care what I did for the next 10 hours, as long as I didn't come home. And I spent my childhood that way. You know, I had a strict father, old school Italian guy, and he taught me a few things, right? Showing emotion is weakness, keep your dirty laundry in the house, and any problems you have to deal with, you deal with on your own. And that's it. So I learned very early on, any problems I ever felt or emotions, or I was really good at putting them into little boxes and storing them away and just move on. I thought that's what strength was. That's what was taught to me. So I did that a lot when I was younger because, like I said, I was filled with fear about everything. So also feeling acceptance and really seeking validation from everyone, so I did everything 150%. You know, if my father told me I had to clean the toilet, I wanted to be the best toilet bowl cleaner there was. And I would. That also translated into sports. That also translated into my school, right? So I did well in school, I did well in sports. The funny thing is, I never still felt accepted. And I chased that my entire life, right? I got into high school, what would you call a late bloomer. Physically and mentally, probably emotionally as well. 95 pounds, soaking wet, probably, I don't know, 5'7". I don't think I even hit puberty yet at that point. And I was a freshman in high school. I was big in wrestling, so a lot of fear, a kid filled with fear all the time. I remember we had to hit the showers after practice. These are my early memories. And me already thinking, well, what lies am I going to come up with so I didn't have to, so the guys wouldn't know I don't have no hair under my armpits yet, right? This was the things. This is how I grew up. This was what it was in my head. You know, we talk a lot about like mental obsession in the rooms. Like my mind was always going 24/7, way before drugs and alcohol. I was always worried about what people thought of me. I always was worried about what the next thing I was going to have to do. Showering after practice, as you now know, like this is how my mind always worked. So always filled with anxiety, never feeling comfortable. So I was popular, I guess you would say. I just kind of hovered around a lot of cliques. When I went to high school, because I played a lot of sports, I felt like, I don't know, the jocks probably didn't fully accept me because I was also in the smart kid classes, right? And then the smart kids didn't really accept me because I was playing sports. So I always felt like I was hovering around all these different groups, never truly part of one. As I grew up in high school, I would go to the parties. I would have beers and all that because I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be accepted. I remember my first couple beers, though I didn't really enjoy them. I think back when I grew up, so I switched to like Zimas or something. Yeah, I see it sad. Some guys know about that. They probably know about the Jolly Rancher we put in there. Does it taste a little more sweet? That's what we did, right? And I didn't think nothing of it. At this point, you know, growing up, my twin brother, when you're an identical twin, we were always pitted against each other, right? We were always, who could do this better, who can do that better. You're also known as the twins 24/7 because nobody could tell you apart. So I was always searching for my own identity as well through this whole time. So through high school, yeah, it was okay, but I thought my answer to all my problems was going to be college. I did really well in high school. College was going to give me an opportunity to be Anthony for the first time in my life and not the twin. I told my brother that we're going to be going to different schools. He absolutely agreed because he felt the same way. Except we picked the same college, so that didn't really work out the way we planned. So we just said we weren't going to be roommates. There's 13,000 kids in that university. You don't know me, I don't know you. Except we both hated our roommates, so it didn't work out well there. I will tell you this, up to this point in my life, I've had a lot of good milestones. My beautiful daughter, who's here to support me tonight. I have another daughter that's 4 years old at home. A lot of good memories. Probably couldn't tell you a lot of the details of the day they were born, though. Probably couldn't tell you in the temperature that's what I was wearing. I don't know about a lot of the details. And those are pretty big milestones in my life. But my first drunk, I could tell you every single detail. That's insanity. I see that now. And that first drunk happened to me, I remember it was first day of college. I remember getting into my dorm, new roommate, watching from the community spot, the window, my parents driving off. And I just remember, thank God, I can finally make up for a lot of experience I thought I didn't have in high school. I was going to make up now. And I had a big sigh of relief right then and there. I met my suite mates. And this is where it happened, right? They brought out this shamrock table, which I took offense to. But I condoned it, it's okay. And then they brought out that handle of vodka, and then that shot glass. And of course, my twin brother came along. And we just passed that shot glass around. And I just remember, I couldn't wait for it to get to me. I remember taking that first shot. It was like a spiritual experience for me, honestly. Because when it first went down, the warmth down the throat, into the chest, and dissipating into the stomach, I physically sighed and breathed for the first time in my life, it felt like. That's what it felt like for me. And I had immediate thoughts. Like my brain just fired off. I said, why did I wait this long? That was my first thought. And then my second thought was, I always want to feel like this. And we finished that handle of vodka. And then we went out. And I blacked out that very first night. I actually woke up, it was a little outdoor area between the dorms on a bench. And I remember waking up, the kids were walking to class. Normal people probably would have woke up and said, I probably shouldn't do that again. I didn't have that thought. My thought was, I can't wait to do that again. And I should have known right then and there that alcohol affected me differently than most people. And that promise I made to myself that first night, that I always want to feel like this, I made sure that happened. I was not one of these alcoholics that was a gradual process. I hit the ground running. I blacked out and I was drunk every night ever since that first drunk. It's just the way it was for me. But it did a lot of things for me. It was absolutely a working solution in my life at the time. It allowed me to be everything I thought I wanted to be, the life of the party, the womanizer, all these things. It absolutely eliminated all the angst I always had, all the fear I always had. I didn't feel comfortable sober. So why would I be sober at any point? You know, at this point, I have a lot of friends. I'm becoming what I thought I wanted to be. But college for me, as I started not going to class, immediately things revolved around the drinking. I scheduled things all around it. So I just said, class got in the way, so I stopped showing up to class. I was scheduling classes only for a night, right? I would show up to my night class, and I remember professor being like, "Who are you? You've never been to class." I'm like, "I know, but today's exam day, right?" He's like, "Yeah, well, that's all my grade is based on, so why would I show up any other time?" You know, if you talk in our literature, Bill's story, I completely identify with it because it's about the progression of his ego along with the progression of his drinking. And that's exactly what it was like for me. My ego progressed really quickly. So when that professor looked at me and said, "You don't belong in this class," I said, "Yes, I do." He goes, "Well, how are you going to pass the exam? You've never been to class." I said, "Well, watch me." And I would, and you get really pissed off. But then I also had this other side. It talks about that Jekyll and Hyde effect. That was absolutely my experience. Except you could probably add 10 more personalities to that. Because that's what drinking did for me. All right, depending on what liquor I wanted to drink that night was going to depend on what kind of night I was going to have. I started fighting a lot. Just looking to get in fights because I all of a sudden wanted to be some UFC guy. Right? I did wrestling my whole life, so I was going to use that to my advantage. You know, this was craziness, but I thought that was absolutely what I wanted to do, and I enjoyed it. I got blackballed in almost every fraternity there was. Only one accepted me, and you probably know why. They were basically the animal houses at that university. And I said, that's perfect. You know, college was a blur. I went through that too with women, just used and abused them. It was just about me. And I just thought that was fine. At this point, I'm getting in consequences. I'm also one of these alcoholics that didn't skate by. I had immediate consequences, and it happened all the time. It just didn't matter to me. I got that very first semester coming home for Thanksgiving break, right? And you know when it talks about Bill Sawyer and he comes home from that war and he thought he was going to be the CEO of industry and I've arrived? That's exactly what was my feeling. I was going to show all those girls from my old hometown, like that only wanted to pinch my cheeks in high school, that I've arrived. Look at me now. And you know, I got my first DWI. As soon as I got home, you know, blew a 3-0. No problem. I haven't drank for 4 hours. I remember the officer saying, "I didn't even think you were that loaded." Alcohol affects me different, right? And I didn't tell him I polished off a bottle of 100 proof SoCo 4 hours ago because I couldn't drink in the club. I wasn't 21. So I made sure that I was toasted. And again, a normal person would probably thought, "Hey, maybe you should watch your drinking. You just blew a 3-0. I said, that's a rite of passage. Everyone has that. That's not a big deal. Except then when I had to go to do this IRDC and 16-week program, normal people would say, "Hey, maybe you should stop for 16 weeks. You might get kicked out of school. You might end up in jail." That wasn't my fault. My fault was, how am I going to get around this? I did what I had to do to get around those tests and all that thing that they put in front of me. Again, honing my manipulation skills at the same time, right? Lying and manipulating was second nature already at this point for me. So I get through college, and the dean knows me by first name, which is not a good thing, by the way. She should not know you by first name. And I remember she tried to get me kicked out of school. I had a big underage bust and was doing a lot of bad things. I've been arrested a couple times now at this point. And they voted to kick me out of college. And they had the dean of students, and they had 10 professors, I remember. And they all went one by one to vote me. And they each said, "No, kick him out, kick him out, kick him out." And there was one professor who I didn't know from Adam, said, "Yeah, keep him in school." So as a good alcoholic, I just made sure I manipulated that guy, told him what he wanted to hear, did what he wanted me to do, just to keep me in school. I remember him trying to talk to me about AA, though. I do remember that. I said, "Why is this guy trying to talk to me about AA? I'm in college. This is what you do." I did what I had to do, and I got through it, right? To get back at the dean, though, I did steal a rock from her house that her son painted. That's the kind of guy I was. And because I was the smartest guy in the room, because that's what my ego told me, right? I made sure I put that rock right in front of the community window, not my room, because I'm too smart for that. She can pin that on me. But I put it in the community window so I could send the message, and then she couldn't pin it on me. She got the message, you know, and so on. But, you know, this is how I lived for a very long time. I was coming home with broken knuckles from fights, black eyes, and all normal, right? Somehow, I remember graduation day. My parents come, do the whole ceremony, and Dean made a purposeful walk right to my parents. And she said one thing to my father, "Thank God your son's out of here." That's what she said. My father looked at me, he's just messing around. We're good friends, don't worry about it. You know, this was normal. At this point in my life too, in that time frame in college, I've lost 2 friends to this disease. I thought nothing of it. I actually thought they didn't know what they were doing. I didn't go to their wakes, I didn't go to their funerals. I can look back now after reflecting that it's probably because I didn't want to, see that. It was denial, right? I didn't want that in my face, so I just justified not going and moved on, put it in a nice little box like my father used to tell me, and put that somewhere and store it away. I got out of college. I did what normal kids did, right? Put my resume out there. I got a job within 6 months. The only thing that changed from other kids is my drinking just progressed. It never stopped. So at this point, it's still working for me. I get a job. I'm, of course, an inside sales rep at that time. It was an entry-level position, and they told me I had to cold call and build all these accounts. Then when I have leads, I got to hand it off to these field guys, these outside guys. I said, well, why would I do that? My ego, right? Why am I going to do all the work and then hand it off to somebody? So I like my good alcoholic, I made sure I closed those deals on the phone instead, so I didn't have to pass them off. And they promoted me. They gave me a car. They gave me a credit card, and they put me on the road, covering the whole Northeast. I was in hotels 3 nights a week. Perfect for this alcoholic. I would look up the local bar, right? And at this point, I'm still loading every night. I'm still blacking out almost every night. I'm missing those sales calls that I'm supposed to make in the morning because I'm blocked out the night before. So I'd make up sales notes like I was there, and they promoted me. Obviously, I don't have a problem. How could I be doing so well? It comes to a point in my drinking, though, that obviously it stopped working. And it started with that particular job. And I remember one night I was in Baltimore for business, and I was in the company car. I went to a local bar, got blacked out again, and I remember trying to drive home to find my hotel, and I just heard this loud pop. It was a loud pop. I said, what was that? And I keep driving, I hear another one. I say, oh, I think that's my tire. I could drive on 2 tires. Right? My hotel's gotta be close. I can't get another DWI, so it's gotta work. And then I remember hearing the 3rd one go. And I remember hearing the 4th one go. Most people probably after the 1st one would pull over, right? No, I gotta be close to the hotel. You can drive on rims, I'm sure of it. Until you start seeing the sparks coming up on both sides of the car. Keep going. Until it goes into that ditch. Spend another night in jail, thinking that's perfectly okay. Now I got to figure out what am I going to tell my bosses, because I just totaled a company car. So of course, because I'm really good at lying, manipulating at this point in my life, I just told them, hey, listen, I'm going to put the car under my own insurance. I don't want your rates to go up. I was just hiding the whole DWI part, and I did, and it worked. There we go. Normal people would probably say at this point that they might have a drinking problem. My first thought was, I'm on the road too much. I need a desk job. That was my thought, honest to God. I need a desk job. So I did. I got another job. Except my drinking didn't get better. It got worse. And at this point, I can see the unmanageability in my life starting to happen. I talk about these friend groups. At this point, I'm drinking and using, and then I start progressing, and those friends aren't drinking and using like me anymore, so I got to find a new friend group that drinks and uses like I do, and then I go to that friend group, and then that progresses, and I got to find a new friend group, and eventually I run out of friend groups, and that's how it was in my experience, right? And at this point too, just to fast forward through all the 25 years of stories there, When it stopped working, I was still in a phase that I held on to a lot of denial that if I can show up for work, I didn't have a problem. And I was one of those alcoholics that I was in bars every night, but then I was now at a point in my life that I don't have any true friends. They're all drinking buddies, and I'm going through them like candy. I'm now, drunk when I'm going to work, but I'm showing up for work, and I'm thinking that's good enough. I started to lose some things. And when I fast forward to the end, and I'll paint the picture what the drinking got me to, my thinking. I would get paid bi-weekly, so on a Thursday, I would get paid. That Friday morning, I'd be lucky if there was $5 in that account. And I had 2 weeks to survive. Gas in the car, food, whatever, basic essentials. And so I started to cross off a lot of boxes I said I would never do. And then I would drink over the guilt and shame of what I had to do to get through each of those days. And that was my vicious cycle for a while. And something weird started happening. I couldn't figure it out. It just stopped working. The drugs and alcohol, which always worked for me, stopped working. It became a job on its own. And because of the guilt and shame that I was constantly dealing with, it kept it going. That was the fuel. And then, of course, I burned through all my friends because of what I did to them. My family has disowned me at this point. I've already done terrible things, stole whatever I needed to do, robbed dealers. I was in jail. I had 8, 9 warrants out for my arrest at all times. I had driving without a license at all times. At this point, this is my normal life. And I said, I can't do it anymore. I just can't. And at this point, I've tried every way to control it, right? I've tried everything to try to control my drinking, and every time it just got worse. Now everything is going towards alcohol, and I got to a point where my car was repoed. I was 1 step away from being homeless. That's where it took me. And guess what I thought? That sounds like a decent idea. This honestly was my thought. I said, well, homeless, is it really that bad? I can drink and use with nobody looking over me or judging me. That actually sounds pretty good. That's the insanity of my disease, that I actually considered that. I said, nah, that seems like too much work. You know what? The only option I have is to off myself. And that was my best thinking at the time. So I tried. I did attempt. I was found by my twin brother, in that motel. I got put into psych hold, the local hospital. At this point, I couldn't put together not even 5 minutes of sobriety. I went on this way for a very long time. And I remember first getting into the room, they put me in, and there's this guy in there in the corner of the bed, like talking to himself. And I said, how did I get here? Look at this guy, he's a Looney Tune. I don't belong here. It's funny how at this point I've lost everything. I tried to commit suicide, and my ego is still intact. Here I am judging this guy like I'm better than him. I absolutely belong there. And by the 3rd day, my mind started to clear a little bit. And they brought in a speaker. And this speaker comes in. These guys that walk around really light, right? These guys that actually look happy. I thought that was fake. I never believed in true happiness. To me, happiness were moments. It was that first meatball off the frying pan on Sunday morning. Lasts about 30 seconds and it's back to misery. That's what thought happiness. So if you were truly happy, I wanted what you had because you were on something. That was how I thought. Every time I dealt with people, I thought it was always a transaction. I need something out of you, you need something out of me, and whoever gets it first wins. And that's how I live my life. If you cross my path, I would become the chameleon, become anything you wanted me to be, tell you what you needed to hear just so I can get what I needed out of you. I didn't believe in genuine people that were selfless and wanted to truly help you. And here's this guy in this psych hold. All of a sudden he gets up there, he's got a smile on his face, he seems peaceful. And And he got up there and told my story. Now, first of all, you had my problems? This guy had the same problems. I thought I was unique. I thought if you had my problems, you would drink and use the way I drink and use. But here's this guy telling me he has 8 years of sobriety, seems happy, and he just told my story. So I was curious. I had questions. I knew when I got out of that psych ward that there's no way I could stay sober on my own. So I remember them leaving there, and they had to put me through outpatient because they won't throw me into inpatient right away. Thank God, I look back now, that I survived outpatient, because I did not, I used it immediately I got out of there. And finally they put me in an inpatient program. And I remember that first day I was in there, one of the techs or whoever was in there, he comes up and he's talking to me and he's telling me, hey, this is the last stop on the block. This is it. So what do you mean, the last stop? Because this is your only solution. This is it. This is the only thing that works. And at this point, just know that I had that gift of desperation. I have already tried every option. That's why suicide was my only option that I thought was worthwhile. And here this guy telling me, no, this is the only stop. I said, okay. If I'm going to believe it, because they started talking about a higher power, right? They started talking about praying and a God. And now listen, I was raised Roman Catholic, but at this point through my life, I thought that was just a way to stop people from killing themselves. You know, you got a lot of people on this planet, you got to give them something so they don't kill each other. So I thought it was just a way to control people. I didn't really believe in any higher power. And here this guy is talking about praying and meditating and a higher power, and I said, this is the last solution? And I said to him, this isn't going to work. I can't pray my problems away. I got real problems. So I said, you know what? In my head, this is my best thinking, by the way, so I'm going to give this program 100%. Knowing that it won't work, I then kill myself with peace of mind that I've tried everything on this planet. If you're not in your head, welcome. You're home. That's insane. But that makes complete sense to me. And it made complete sense to me then that I wanted to kill myself with peace of mind that I've tried everything on this planet. Craziness. But it didn't matter the reason. I gave that program at that point 100%. So I did. In that rehab, I got a temporary sponsor. I listened to every meeting. I participated in every group. I worked the first 3 steps in that 30 days with that temporary sponsor. Things started to change for me. Things started to get a little bit better on the inside. And so I had more questions though. So after that 30 days, they gave me some direction, an action plan, what to do. I go to a meeting right after, raise your hand, tell me you're fresh out of rehab, you need a sponsor. I did exactly what they told me. And I got, and I worked through the 12 steps. When I went back home to my parents' house, things started to get better. I started to feel better. My life was starting to be repaired, right? The higher power thing I struggled with when I was working those steps, I will say that I used the rooms of AA as my first higher power because I needed something tangible. I needed something that I can touch. And the rooms of AA, I've been to enough meetings that I saw something was working in these rooms. There's too many people, too many stories that I heard, and it was working in their lives. I didn't know what it was. I didn't want to say it was God. I didn't want to say it was I. So I just used the collective rooms of AA as my first. That's how I started. And the problem for me is things started to get better. I like to take Anthony's will right back. I want to do Anthony's AA because, again, my ego came back. And I'm thinking I'm the smartest guy in the room. And they told me I had to build a relationship with that higher power. I said, no, that's what you all have to do. My life's already better. It's already good. So I'm just going to be, okay, I use the rooms of AA and that's it. I'm not going to pray. I'm not going to meditate. I don't need to have a relationship. This thing, I can do this thing my way. And it worked for a little bit. You know, about two years, a little over 2 years now. I remember, I would say about 2 years in, things were going good. My job was really doing well. my ex-wife was pregnant with Ella, and I remember saying, okay, I'm gonna move closer to my job so I can take care of my baby coming. And then what did they tell me? They said, all right, you're gonna have to get a new sponsor, you're gonna get a new home group, you're gonna build your own network, because you're moving. I said, yeah, of course, yeah, okay. Well, my daughter was born, I got that new apartment near work, and guess what? What's more important? I gotta take care of my daughter. I'm working all day. I have so many other responsibilities. So I put it off on the back burner, everything they told me to do. And then all of a sudden in 2 weeks, I haven't talked to my old sponsor, haven't talked to anybody in my old network. I definitely haven't been to a new meeting where I was, and so I don't have a new sponsor or a home group. I'm just dry for 2 weeks. The funny thing happened. I will tell you this, I missed it. At the end of my addiction, my father was the only time he confided in me that he had 10 years of sobriety. It was surprising to me too, because I only knew him drinking. And so I had to remember, I guess when I was really young, I told him, I remember bringing me to a room, there was always smell of cigarettes, there was always a lot of orange juice and coffee. Those were the meetings back then, I guess, but I was too young to even remember. My father always knew I was drinking, and he told me that he was an alcoholic and he had 10 years sobriety, but he's good now. And he did help me. I'm grateful that he took me to meetings those first couple of years. Grateful for everything he tried to do for me. And the reason I say that is, when I got that apartment, I stopped doing this thing and I unplugged from this program, thoughts came back into my head. And I said to myself one night, it'd be nice to have a glass of wine with dinner tonight. Well, I also had a second thought. I said, well, look, my father, he was sober for a long time, and look, he's drinking now. So maybe I'm not an alcoholic. Maybe I just drank and used the way I did because I had a lot of problems back then. Well, guess what? All those problems are behind me now. So maybe I'm like my father. I'm not an alcoholic. So I had a glass of wine with dinner that night. Completely justified that. And guess what? I didn't break out in handcuffs, which usually happens to me. So I had a couple glasses the next night. And that turned into a bottle. That turned into a couple bottles. And then I, get my third DWI. Just like that. Just like that. Except now I have daughters still. It's depending on me. I have all these reasons. That was a tough point in my life because I had to make a decision right then and there. I knew enough about AA at that point that I couldn't do it for her. I couldn't do it for anyone except for myself. And so I decided to get back into the program right then and there. I will tell you, I moved back home at that point. I obviously went through a divorce as well, some tough times. And I did it with the help of this program. I really relied heavily on it. Got a new sponsor, walked through the steps again, and then I started building a relationship with my higher power. I got a sponsor that was spiritually fit, and I wanted what he had, and it was working. I got through those steps again. They told me, okay, you got to start sponsoring guys. And I remember having another thought. Anthony's good thoughts. My thinking's really good usually. I said, I don't need to sponsor anybody. That sounds highly inconvenient. I don't want to meet with someone 2 hours a week. I don't want someone calling me every day. I'm on the phone at work all day. I don't want to do any of that. You all need to do that. I don't. So I tried it my way. And I did. It worked for a bit, until it didn't. Maybe a couple more years that went along like that, and I just remember the same pattern, right? At this point now, I'm in my own apartment, and I'm slowly starting to miss meetings and slowly unplug again. I'm in a few relationships, and that was it. Started drinking again, just like that. At this point, after that, I had met a girl that I knew I fell in love with. I met a girl that I thought was truly the love of my life. But even the love of my life was not more important than my booze. And I remember, keeping up with the lies and all that stuff that comes along with it. And her finding out. And April 21st, 2019 was the last time I drank, is when she did give me a right hook to the face. And it's exactly what I needed. She walked out that door, and I remember saying to myself, how did I do this again? How did I get here again? Here I am letting the love of my life here walk out, and I'm self-sabotaging like I always do. I blow up everything in my life as soon as I get to a certain point, like that was my MO. And so I decided to get back into the program once more, and that was the last time. I totally surrendered for the first time in my life. Completely, totally surrendered. Got another sponsor, got a new home group, and I did whatever this suggested in the book and my sponsor said to me. And I didn't put Anthony in front of anything. I don't know if anyone of y'all are Seinfeld fans, but George Costanza, there was an episode called Opposite Day. That guy saved my life. I just did opposite day, Anthony, every day. Any thought that came to mind, I did the opposite. And it worked in the beginning. That's what worked for me. I had some really good spiritual moments as I worked the steps that last time. And I built a really strong network. I started applying the principles that I learned in these rooms in every area of my life for the first time. That's what started to work, and it started with little things, right? The guy on Route 80 that decided to cut me off, that I usually would want to pull over or yell at or curse at. I just paused. So how would my higher power have me react, right? And if I can't act in understanding, compassion, then I don't do anything. And that's what worked for me. I started to grow from little things like that. I started to look for areas where I can be of use, of help, of service. I attended a lot of meetings. I started taking a lot of guys through the book. And then in my life, I started to repair things. I started to apply it at work. I started to apply it to friends. I started to apply it to family. And funny things started to happen. Those relationships all got better. Because I learned in these rooms how to be a person. A healthy, functioning person that is looking to serve instead of my own will. I started stopping in bad, toxic relationships, which I always thought was all their fault, right? Some really good things happened. My father, at this point, didn't know how to spend time with his sober son, and that was okay. That was growth for me because I could have plenty of justifiable resentment to my father. I remember him inviting me to the bar again as soon as I got sober and say, hey, just have a club soda, come sit next to the stool next to me. I could easily say, hey, this is life or death for me. Like, what are you doing? But this program taught me that how can I be a better son instead? So I invite him to coffee, I invite him to dinner, and it didn't matter if he took me up on it. It was my action just of the invite that's all that mattered. I don't have expectations on people anymore. This program taught me that. My father got diagnosed 2 years ago with stage 4, and because of this program, thank God, I was able to be there with him on his last days. Not only that, I was able to have a peaceful conversation with him and make peace. I wouldn't be able to do that if it wasn't for this program. My mother passed the following year. I only say this, and this program got me through the toughest moments of my life. And how did it do it? Because I got a lot of sympathy, right? I get a lot of those calls when one of your parents passed away, and one of my biggest character defects was self-pity. And I could have easily made that all about me and justified me going back out, right? This program taught me how to be of service even in that time. So I took care of the arrangements. I took care of collecting the their personal belongings. And as a result, I was able to get through one of the toughest times of my life, healthy and sober. That's amazing. Today, my daughter doesn't have to see me drink. My youngest daughter never saw me drink. I get to be a father today. I get to be a husband today. I get to be a friend. And when I say friend, I know what's going on in their lives. True friendship of depth and substance. That's amazing. That's a miracle for me. You know, I'm a miracle standing up here because I should have been dead a million times. There's a reason I'm up here. You know, but I have a real relationship with my higher power today that I work on daily. I wake up every day, and I tell myself that I'm an untreated alcoholic. Because I have to remind myself and humble myself every day. And it only matters the actions I take that day that keep me sober. When they say this is a day at a time program, and I hate the cliche, it's how I live it. Because if I think about tomorrow, I think about what I did yesterday, and that's going to get me through, I'm in trouble. And it's only about the little things, right? When my sponsor asked me to come do this meeting, I said, how far is it? You can't get nobody else that lives closer, really, guys? It's a big, they want to video me. I just say yes today. I just say yes. Why? Because it's what's kept me sober, but more importantly, one of the best gifts this program gives me is peace. I was a guy from the day I was born that my mind would always race. First it was about my problems and what people thought of me, and then when I got into drinking, it was all about the drinking drugs, 24/7. I always try to figure out a way to have that peace of mind, my mind to quiet. I have that today. That first guy that walked into that psych ward that was all light and peaceful that I talked about, now I understand. I understand. Because when I lay my head down at night, it's quiet. When I wake up in the morning, it's quiet. That's a miracle. A miracle that I think about others today too, instead of me. You know, I absolutely fall short every single day, but the cool thing about this program is it doesn't tell you that you're going to be perfect. It doesn't tell you you're going to be peaceful in every situation. It tells me that when I'm angry, frustrated, or resentful, I don't have to stay that way. And it gives me the tools to get through those. Because I don't have the luxury of normal people. It tells me in my program that resentfulness is the number one reason we go out. So that tells me if I'm resentful and I let that happen, I could go out and drink. And if I drink, I die. So how do I get through the resentfulness? It gives me the tools to do that. I have to live that way. And that's why I wake up every day and say I'm an untreated alcoholic. Because I can easily forget about it because my life is good today. So I have to remind myself that it's no better out there. That's why I go to meetings. That's why I go to beginners meetings. That's why I take guys through the book. I got to hear the pain and misery. That's why the newcomers are the most important people in these rooms. I got to be reminded. And the reason I come out here and the reason my sponsor makes me put a suit on, and it's not just this group either, he makes me do it everywhere, is remind the newcomers it's for them and that this program works. I will tell you, I have a life. I remember in that first day of that 30-day rehab, they told me, think of the best life you can imagine. It's past it. It's past it. And all it took was for me to get out of my own way. I was the problem. That was hard for me, but that was exactly the humbleness I needed to break that ego, to understand and be able to surrender so I can have acceptance. You know, they talked a lot about gratefulness in early recovery. And they also talked a lot about these promises, right? I remember in early recovery, well, how do I get that? Like a good alcoholic, I was like, how do I get those? How quickly? Is there any shortcuts? All right? And I would chase that stuff. Like I would see these guys that are sober and have nice cars, maybe they got a little money in their pocket, a nice girl. I'm like, well, that's what I want. That's what I'm here for. And somehow I was still miserable and wanted to kill myself. In recovery, sober. Because I was chasing those things. I learned through this program, some good people around me, that I have to chase peacefulness today. And serenity. And there's a million ways I do that. Being of service, praying and meditating. But when I do chase that, what happens is the byproduct is true happiness. And I found that true happiness only comes from a grateful heart. And that's what's lasting. So that meatball off the frying pan, yeah, that's great. Yes, amazing. But that's not going to fill the hole that I have. Right? It's not going to be anything on this outside world that fills that hole. It's funny, when in this program, it's allowed me to find out who I truly am. I thought I knew. I knew nothing. You know what I was? I was a little bit of a shell of myself. I just became whatever and when I thought you needed me to be. Right? I found out like these weird passions that I thought I never had. Right? Like reading. Who reads? I do today. That's crazy. If you really knew me, that's nuts. But these are the things I get to find out in sobriety, right? I'm the guy that they call my family or friends when stuff gets down and dirty for them. I'm the reliable one today. You know, I was never that guy. I was the guy causing all the problems. I was the guy that my parents were waiting in the middle of the night for that phone call that I was either going to be dead. They already heard the many times I was in jail. That's okay. You know, that's a miracle. I would say this. The peace and serenity that I get from this program, it's allowed me to be that productive member in society that I can look in the mirror every morning and like what's looking back. You know, when I was in the beginning, when I was that little kid, when I'm comfortable in my skin, I am comfortable in my skin today. That's crazy. I can sit in silence. I just remember anytime there was silence, I would just squirm in my pants. I remember hearing, how about the birds chirping in the morning? That one was a good one for me. Because when I was out there drinking and using, I heard those birds chirping, that was not a good thing. That was awful. I was up all night at that point. That day I hear the birds chirping, I'm like, oh, that's great. I'm like, who am I? Like, how's that a good thing? Yeah, it sounds nice, right? You got some sleep. These are little things, like these God moments that I have in my life today. And all I have to do is get out of my own stuff. And the only way this program has taught me to get out of my own head is to be of service to others. And it doesn't mean in just AA. It means outside in my life. And as soon as I start practicing these principles in all my affairs, I get that peace and serenity, which gives me like my happiness from that grateful perspective that only this program is able to give me. And for that, I am truly grateful. That's all I got. I hope I brought you a good message.
My name's Nick, I'm an alcoholic. Let's give Anthony another round of applause, that was incredible. That's great stuff. Thanks for telling my story, man. That was awesome. So, our speakers come here at their own time and expense, so it's customary to perform a line in the front here. We'll thank them on a personal level. Again, food and fellowship always starts around 8 o'clock. Please come early and join us. There's tons of opportunities for service here. I'd like to thank Annette, a wonderful member of Al-Anon, who always taking care of our kitchen back there. Thank you. Okay, and there's some food that was donated from a friend of mine from Costco, so please leave with something. And if you didn't hear, there are some bananas. Okay, awesome. So, yeah, we're going to circle up and we'll say the Lord's Prayer. If you care to join us, we'll pray.
Tell them about the bananas.
Yeah, and bananas. Get some. Nice group. Happy Festivus. Okay, a moment of silence for anybody suffering, anybody struggling inside and outside of the rooms. Followed by our Lord's Prayer, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and glory, forever and ever. Amen. Come back, it works if you work it.